Welcome in. Cydney, are you studying right now?
No.
We're like reading from your textbook or something. You know, your school's over. You already got your MBA.
Right. I was trying to keep myself from dancing to the music.
Oh, okay. Okay. Nobody's guessed the song yet. So at some point we're gonna have an outro that complements that intro, but nobody has guessed it.
What episode do you think people are going to guess it on? This is our third episode. What are we thinking?
I think so. I've had a couple of friends that have said that they are waiting until they have time to watch like the full episode. And I'm just like, just watch bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to watch the whole thing.
Come on.
Yeah, AKA that's Christian. That is saying that he needs.
That?
Yeah, he doesn't want to listen to it. He wants to watch it because he knows us. And so he's like, he's got a 2-year-old right now.
Come on, bud. Let's be more realistic.
Exactly. Well, welcome guys. Welcome to If This Then What. We've not formally introduced ourselves. My name is Joshua Giles. That's Cydney Davis, and we're going to be talking to you about AI today and what's going on in the news and what's happening in industries. What's in the news and what does it mean for certain things to be happening, and asking the questions of if this then what. Cydney, how you doing this week?
I'm doing good, man. I've been using a lot of AI. So just been excited to rack up some examples on how we've been utilizing it and looking forward to this call. Did you notice I got a new camera?
I did.
I'm clearer, just like you. You did. Of course you didn't notice. You're a guy.
I didn't notice. I'm sorry. My bad.
It's okay.
Oh. See, the problem is I'm so conceited. I'm just looking at myself the whole time. So I just that's
if
my
everyone's
real
honest, that's what they're doing too. You know, how has your week been?
Every now and then I'll glance over at you, just make sure you're smiling.
Yeah, right.
We're
looking at coursework.
Exactly. So you said you've been racking up use cases. I've got 2 use cases that I've been using AI this week for, but I am excited to hear your use cases.
I'm excited to hear yours first.
Oh my goodness. All right. So I want to kind of go through my current daily like habit of like how I've been like, so last time you talked about a lesson that you like wanted to teach yourself. And I thought like, I do a bunch of learning. Let me be intentional and think about what, if I have a process, how do I go about that process? And what I've been doing recently is about the last 30 minutes of the day before my drive home is around 45 minutes in the afternoon, and about 30 minutes before I will do I'll go to like what I'll show tonight. What I've been using is Gemini Deep Research, but I'll go and I'll ask it to write like a topic of something that I've recently learned, right? So like the semantic modeling and ontology, like something that I'm like a little bit less aware about, and it'll write a big long paper about it, and I'll tell it to just write as much information as you think that I can handle, and then I will jump over into NotebookLM and I'll make it have a podcast that it does for me, so that I'm not reading the paper that ChatGPT wrote, but I'm listening to the podcast, which is very conversational. Is how I learn. And so that's my first kind of use case of how I'm learning from AI. And I think we've talked about that, but I hadn't specifically said that I listen to podcasts that I created right before I left for work. So I'm really excited I use NotebookLM, which at some point they're going to have a interaction mode. Technically it's there where you press the button and the host that is AI generated that's talking about like what you're working on goes, oh wait, we have a caller coming in and you're the caller. And so you can like ask a question that's like specific to the podcast that you're listening to.
Huh.
So
Yeah.
I'm very excited for that feature to come out. And then Google Deep Research. This has been something that I did not recognize. I'll bring to my can you see my screen?
Yeah. And then real quick before you move on, what was that resource that you utilized for the podcast?
Google NotebookLM. So you can drag any of your documents. So the way that it's designed is for like college students to be able to like have their textbooks uploaded. So they'll have like a full chapter of their textbooks put into Google NotebookLM, and it creates a study brief. I'll next week.
Can you imagine having that back in college? Dude, I didn't even get to have that in my MBA.
So there's a brief. There's a brief that you can make. So you can upload at these points. I've uploaded like 100 pages. I'm talking like full PDF pages, and it'll synthesize it down to a 20-minute podcast where two people are having conversation about the topic. Then you can create a business brief, which is like a 1-pager that it's like basically synthesized everything down to like bullet points and like what you need to like the hard facts from 100 pages of documents. And then you can also create a study guide, and it'll create questions that it hasn't answered yet, but it will create questions for you to answer. And you can have conversations with the study guide and like ask it questions and like answer the questions that you're answering, and it can like go back and forth. It's meant for just like a college student studying.
So you don't need Khan Academy. You could do this.
Well, college students would do this. I would say elementary, middle school, high school would probably do like a Khan Academy, because you still need like this is something that me and my friends have talked about as like my friends are really worried about people not thinking anymore. Like the bad part of AI is that people are just going to stop thinking about things. And I'm like, no, guys, like you don't understand. No. This is the greatest learning teaching tool that's ever been invented. And they're like, Josh, you're weird.
But imagine how much more you can elevate your thinking with this when you don't have to do the baseline, basic thinking. Like I think so much better audibly, like to be able to talk things out, like history class, for instance. My husband loves history. He is a history buff. He can name off all the years, everything. Me, I didn't ever get to talk out history. And what I miss is because my teachers were coaches that would just give you study guides and a textbook. And then when you spend the whole week filling out the study guide, and then when you come back, the quiz is just the study guide with a different title. And so that's how I learned history. And I would love to just talk that out with somebody, you know.
Please do a shout out for your school coach.
Stratford High School. Shout out to all the football coaches that wanted to be political science teachers too. Or you name all the history classes in high school.
Listen, you being a high school coach, like shout out to you. Like legitimately, I'm not making fun of coaches. I know that they get like a little stipend to do coaching. And it's like you basically have 2 jobs, and you're expected to be all the things role model wise that a coach is, at the same time that you're supposed to be a teacher, at the same time that you're just like a human. Exactly. You're just existing in the world. Like you went and partied in college, like, but now you got adult like needs. Right. You have to
like, oh crap, I have to pay for this car I always wanted. My husband and I, we always say that's what the money's for, but the money's not there. So I get it.
Yeah. Shout out to all you coaches out there, but specifically shout out to the Stratford High School coaches that didn't teach history. They just gave study guides.
Not nearly as good as ChatGPT can.
Not nearly as good. So that's NotebookLM. I think a deep dive into NotebookLM next week will be good. I will say their podcast sometimes is a little, it's hit and miss. But today I wanted to do something that I have been, so deep research is a product that Google, so Google's again crushing it the last couple of weeks. I think everybody just assumed that Google would win this at some point, and like what I said, it's been kind of disappointing from Google. But the things that they've got coming out recently has been phenomenal. So deep research, what it does is you can ask it a prompt, and it will go out and it will write almost like a research paper level report for you that will cite every single website that it's ventured. So I've got here this morning, I had a conversation with one of my coworkers, John. I know we talked about it today. We're going to test to see if you're watching. But
don't disappoint, John.
he's starting a side business with one of the guys he goes to church with, and is pressure washing, and I think it's like the coolest thing. And so we've been just chatting about it, and I'm kind of the AI guy, and every time I've got to have any conversation, apparently I've got to bring up AI. And I was like, hey, can I do some research for you? And he was like, don't worry about it. I was like, can I please do some research for you? So I was like, how much are you and your business partner go in? And it's like, he said $10,000. I was like, okay, it's in Houston. Let's do some research. It goes through and it gives you its chain of thought, like what it's procedurally going to do. So it says, I'm starting a pressure washing business with $10,000 in Houston. Give me the report, the best practices and best deployment of my $10,000. So that's my prompt. It then synthesizes from that. Find information about starting a pressure washing business in Houston. This should include, like, it goes through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different prompts of itself. And then it has outputted this 8-page, legitimate research paper on what is like, what pressure types of pressure washer do you want, gas versus electric powered, what is like the variations of that, and then it gives you which websites that it pulled that info, like those conversations from, on like whether you should buy gas, and then you can go read that that website to be able to like tell what information was true or not true. At some point in here, it talks about like figuring out your pricing model being really important, but it didn't give a lot of information. So I was like, it kind of skips.
I love all of
this. When you give your research topics, you have to hit this start research, or you have to edit plan. So like basically you're supposed to read whether or not their plan makes sense. Okay. Start research. And then it is, I noticed I didn't have good pricing on there. So I said, do a competitor price research on the Houston area washers for residential, commercial, and specialized. I want information at flat rate, hourly, and per square foot, because this is the information that was like super generalized in the last report. And so now it's got a entire report just on the pricing models that is specific to Houston, and how much people are pricing their spending. And so I just like specific companies that are out there, which types of pricing they have at their shop and what's listed on their website, and it's going to give you information on it. I thought that was amazing, and I wanted to start a new chat with today. And
let's do it.
What research topic should we make Gemini do while we are chatting?
So selfishly, I would love to look at talent. So I'm in talent strategy. I would love to research. Let's say I'm staying in the commercial general contractor world, which I love. Do a research paper on the commercial general contractor. We could even do it with where the Yeah, you convert what I'm saying. On the commercial general contractor talent acquisition best practices. Let's do it. Okay, so just for the listeners, people who aren't looking,
Yeah.
I'm sure you can hear Josh's fingers typing away. So he's basically done the magic work of taking my unfinished thoughts and finishing them. So he's putting do a research paper on the commercial general contractor talent acquisition process and best practices. Put together a final document that also includes a best in class on onboarding. Yep. Onboarding process.
Okay. So while that's like thinking about what it's going to research, how did you use AI this week?
So, one of the areas that I utilized AI was, have you ever tried to? I'm cooking a lot more now, which
Okay.
is nice,
Nice.
and
It's
uh,
healthy.
yeah,
Are you
very
cooking
healthy.
are you cooking healthily?
Oh yeah, my dad and I are on Whole30 together.
Okay.
um, but so very healthy. But like
By the
for
way,
instance,
we're at 73 websites right now and counting.
really okay.
Yeah.
So we where was I going with that? Oh, cooking. So I've been
Yep.
cooking a lot, and some of the recipes you find, like for instance, how do you cook a steak on a skillet? And getting the right times and what gets you to medium rare, like just using it to convert it
Oh,
to how many inches thick my steak is. But from there, even if I have multiple things to cook at one time in one oven set at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and I want to eat everything at the same time when it's done. So it will tell
oh,
me
man.
when to put what in and how long to leave it in, and it includes rest time.
Do you ever have you watched the show The Bear?
Yes. My
Right. So
friend, you remember
fire.
Olivia? Olivia's been trying to get me to watch that, and I love
Yeah.
it.
So whenever they yell fire, that is
Mhm,
like the head chef like doing that measurement inside his head based upon the timing. So not all the dishes, parts of the foods are going to get cooked at the same time. So he's yelling fire whenever like the other cooks need to like start cooking something.
mhm.
That's awesome
Yeah,
because like everybody can go and do a blog, like go Google like how to cook a steak on a
yeah.
skillet. But
Mhm,
there are just like simple questions that a lot of blogs just like skip over, and you search through things. It's questions that like you technically think you know the answer to. They're kind of
mhm,
dumb questions, but you just
mhm.
want to be like, I want reassurance that
Yeah,
I'm cooking this steak correctly. And then on top of that, you can ask like hyper specific questions that is unique to you, right?
mhm,
Where like you could measure the steak and like give the mass of the steak, and you had two cooking in the same skillet,
mhm.
and it's like what is the like what is how long do you put it in there for how long did I sear it for? Like it's going to be super specific to what you are trying to do.
Yeah, like what I try to think of and what everyone should try and challenge themselves to think of about ChatGPT whenever like what do we put in, right? Think of it as another subconscious mind of yours. Like you're talking to it. Imagine that now you are equipped with two subconscious minds in your head. One of them you have control with, and the other one is ChatGPT, and they can have the inner dialogue conversation.
Oh man, you get too close to my heart, Cydney. Because I was doing an end of year review last like February, and we were talking about like startup in 2024, and I was really wanting my to have a focus on AI, and I was talking to
Yeah.
my manager about it, and he's like, "There's a play there, like this is and this," and I was just like, "No, but you don't understand. Like, I don't know how to work anymore without AI."
Yeah.
And I'm talking to this dude, like Adam, if you're watching this, like love you. But like he's just the most experienced construction guy that you know.
Yeah.
And I am just this like over enthusiastic. tech aficionado, and uh, he had to listen to some long rambles about some stuff, and and I said that, and I could just see in his face, and he was just like, "Oh God, what is this world coming to?" And I was like, "Okay, it's a little hyperbolic, but what I mean by that is, I now, when I'm thinking through a process, and when you're thinking about doing things, there are just moments that you're just naturally going to get hung up on, and you do think about, like, before ChatGPT, you do think about, like, how would I go about solving this issue that I know that I'm going to have,
Yeah.
especially when in a work environment. And what I have just started doing is, like, now instead of me walking through how I would solve this issue, I'm walking through how would I prompt this issue? How would I eliminate the hallucinations? How would I get to my answer the quickest? Like, and it's just become automatic to everything that I do. So that's so funny that's
I'm hoping I can remember this. There something we were watching. Oh, yes. One of the things that we watched on one of our previous episodes, in the video they said, "Let the robots do the work."
Yep.
And then yeah, let the robots do the work. Like, for those who are afraid of utilizing this, it's a way to elevate our way of thinking. It gets us past a certain point so we can imagine what more you can think about if you can get all this minutia figured out and stuff, for sure.
And it's just automated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, cool. You have any other ways that you're using AI in the world?
Yeah, we with the company I work with now, we utilize a platform called Carve.
Okay.
So a lot of times I don't know,
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor yet.
Yeah, if you want a sponsor.
I know, right? Hey.
I gotta do the camera look every single time I want a sponsor.
I know, I'm mad that my camera doesn't move.
Carve.
But so Carve, so what a lot of people don't think about is, let's just talk about, so we know I'm in talent strategy. Part of that is talent acquisition. When it comes to a recruiter, one of the things that people don't know a lot about are, like, we don't know challenges of other people's roles. One of the challenges of a recruiter is, how do you remain personable and truly connect with the other person on the other line in a genuine way while taking notes on every single thing they say so that you can write it up, right? So Carve is a platform that will join on a video call. Maybe we could have Carve join one of our podcasts in the future.
Okay.
But Carve joins, and Carve listens to the entire conversation. When you get off the call, it kicks out key points of what you discussed, like an overview. It'll kick out action items for each person. Excuse me. And then it will generate even a follow-up email to send out to everybody. And then there's another aspect of it. Let's say you are on a client call and they ask you a question that you just can't think of the answer to, but you talk to them. You can go to Carve and type to them, "Hey, what did they say their 401k match was where they are now?" Little detail. You can know everything else about your candidate and not know that. Carve will spit it right back out to you.
Yeah. No,
It's pretty cool.
I imagine, especially in kind of like in a recruiter role that's more of a consultant, where you're working for multiple companies and somebody like asks you a question about a company that you are consulting for, the ability to ask for that client to give you all their pertinent documents about, like, who they are and what they want to, like where all of their offices are. And now, instead of having like your notes, you can just quickly let me look that up for you real quick, and it's just a Google search type experience where it pops up the answer. That's, how many offices do they have? Well, there's two. There's one in Houston and Dallas. And then, you probably knew that from your intake because you're a good you're a good employee.
But to your point, yeah. And sometimes we're all just human. Like, we miss stuff. So to drive home the example of those who think that's going to keep us from thinking, you can do, I pride myself on really trying to get to know every single person I work with. I just love people. I've always been told I'll talk to a fence post, but people are a lot more interesting, you know? And I can try and prepare and familiarize myself with all the information, but we're human at the end of the day. And that doesn't mean that that should get in the way of us being able to connect with the people we're on the phone with. So when I don't have to take notes, which first started out as me writing my notes because I couldn't type and listen at the same time. Since then, I've been able to start typing. It's been years, of course. But now I get to just not do anything and just be fully engaged with the person I'm on the phone with. So that is an example of AI taking out the unnecessary things, and now I get to elevate my experience with the people I interact with. So just cool way of using it. Let's see what it did.
Guess what just finished. So this looks like a pretty substantial. And that's I want to scroll down real quick to see
how long.
Look at that. Giving like compensation and benefits like research for you, and just like this nice pretty spreadsheet.
So does everyone do all co-founders of this then what get access to Gemini Advanced?
I think that'll be included in a subscription for cost basis. But I wanted to go down to where so 73 websites that are referenced throughout this thing. So if I go to Open Docs, this generates a Google Doc. I don't know if I might have to share the rest of my screen.
This is very cool though. 73 websites.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Bear with me, peeps.
And they reference AGC. They have some notable references.
All right. So inside, you see, like they do it in the this specific sentence right here. This shortage is due to the number of factors, including aging workforce and a lack of interest in the construction careers among younger generations and increased competition in other industries. So what is that sourcing? All the way down at the bottom, we can go to why the construction industry continues to struggle to recruit talent. And this came out, I think it even gives you like the date. Yeah. So this came out January 7th, 2025. So how relevant of a like researcher are you getting?
Yeah.
And so also young people go into construction. It's pretty awesome. I know that's not what this is about, but we need
looking for the field work. Work, it can be so rewarding. All you college students that want to go into the project management route, field work is very rewarding as well.
Listen, if you ever meet project managers and superintendents, the superintendents are always the ones having more fun. Like the project managers are meeting at like Top Golf for their like beer night, you know, like for like their like happy hour. The superintendents are like on like a fishing trip that's like 3 nights long. That's like an overnight like cabin that you're in, or they're at the shooting range every time. And project managers like get out of the office. Go into the field work.
To clarify for those who don't know, in construction, in construction, in operations, there's typically 2 sides. There's op support, of course, and that, that's what Josh is in. He's in op support. But operations is typically project manager or superintendent side. And project managers, they manage the contracts and the financials of a project. Superintendents maintain safety and coordinate all of the subcontractors. And I hope that was a good short explanation of what they do.
It's funny because I'm like posting these on LinkedIn, and my coworkers are just kind of just roast me. I know it. If any of them are watching it, it's probably we're 30 minutes in, so they've all tuned out by
Look,
now.
we're in the arena, okay? We're
We're
doing
in.
brave and courageous things.
We are in the arena, as Teddy Roosevelt would say.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't we go to AI in the news? So our first topic tonight, I just usually a little bit behind the scenes, I will typically send kind of a YouTube video or like a newsreel or something to you that we like specifically talk about. This time, however, I said just go do your own research on ChatGPT 03 because I really wanted to just like because I have the lens of historical what that means, and I was really wanting to know what does it look like to somebody that is getting really involved with AI but is relatively new to the field. What is ChatGPT 03, and what are your impressions of it?
So ChatGPT 03 blows my mind. You would think it wouldn't after how much advancement we've had in ChatGPT. It's basically pretty theoretical at this point, right?
Correct. It's not out yet. So OpenAI had a event that they called the 12 days of OpenAI AI. On day one, they launched ChatGPT 01 Pro, which is like the $200 version, and 01. So it's 01 has been in like this like preview mode, and it's like their most advanced reasoning model. And we'll talk about reasoning here in a little bit, but basically it thought through things and used a lot more what's called inference time, where it's like it's thinking about the answer, its answer before it gives you that answer, and it's like organizing its information before it puts it out there. So first day they launch 01, 12th day they announce 03. They skipped 02. They are terrible at naming, but they announced 03 on the 12th day of OpenAI. And it is in the research phase. So they do have to do like red team testing, which is like trying to break it, like trying to make sure that people aren't building car bombs out of like, teach me how to do bad things. Like they're making sure that those are all like out of it. So 03 is not out yet. They launched 01. So yes, it is still theoretical.
So from what I could see on my research is that you can basically develop full-on videos, footage, everything, designing it from what you put into AI. Right now, it's a little bit wonky, especially when you're developing pictures. But that's what I got out of it, outside of it being conceptual. Was that a good summary?
Well, so I cheated and I took all of their information that they kind of like when they announced it. They had some graphs up there that kind of explained what ChatGPT 03 performed on tests. And they tested in math, they tested in coding, they tested in like how often do they come up with errors, like what, and these are like frontier math questions where it's like people can go spend 2 days on this math question that have been living in this world for years, and they typically will score like a 70, 80 on it. And 03 scored like 90s on it. So, but I have that, but I also want to bring up a old chart that just talks about 4.0 and 01, right? So this is real information that so 01 came out and people can actually interact with it. Like Cydney says, kind of in like this, like it's technically exists, but they're still like doing a bunch of testing and stuff on it. And so only certain people have been able to get a hold of it. So these like what I'm showing here are real scores from independent parties testing 4.0 and 01 as a like testing. So we've got on here Math is like 4.0 scoring a 60 and 0.1 scoring a 94. Math Vista, right? Like you kind of see that nice gradient where 4.0 came out like last April timeframe. 0.1 came out around the same amount of time frame. But if you rewound just a year prior, is you had ChatGPT 3.5 and 3.5. The way that I was using 3.5 was I was notorious for writing these like really long essays on my emails. And so I just would say, rewrite this in a concise way. And that's where you had like people that was like, that was their first impression of AI was it just makes me write in certain ways. I can either I can make my writing fancy, or I can like dumb down my writing. I can summarize some stuff. This is really just a writing thing. Then ChatGPT 4 comes out in November 2 years ago, and it is the first thing that can actually do math. It can do like all the like it can actually do a bunch of reasoning and like hardly ever hallucinates. And like it's the first time that you're like seeing where it's going, but it's kind of slow. So it's got all this like really advanced features, but it's kind of slow. Fast forward like 6 months later, 4.0 comes out. That's when they launch like the speaking mic, where you can kind of speak back and forth with it. And it's like the same level of confidence that 4 had, but now it's just fast. And
This
it's like
advancement's insane.
Yeah. So I've got on here. So ChatGPT 4.0 is still like the baseline model that a lot of people like. If you want to do something like smart and fast, 4.0 is typically the thing you want to use. 0.1 you want to do if you're trying to like think through your process. Like there's like a step by step piece to the question that you're asking. So 0.1 is you have all the information up here. Well, this is 0.3.
Okay.
So do you see down here in the bottom left where you've got 0.1 mini, 0.1 preview? Then
Well,
you've
real
got
quick,
0.1.
for the listeners,
Yep.
what we need to think about is, so you have a chart here. So the x-axis is cost per task and the y-axis is score.
Yep.
Um,
So this is explaining this test is called ARC AGI semi-private evaluation, which is basically they're testing it on its ability to do novel projects, like something that is not part of the training set. They specifically do a lot of research on making sure that none of these models are actually tested on the material that's being asked of it. And so they've got these very specific novel issues that you are testing whether or not a model can do something with it. Okay. So 0.1, which was twice as good as 4.0, which is the baseline model on like how much chain of thought and reasoning it can do, is scoring at a 13.33%. So it's only getting right of this novel pattern test. And it's not fair to just say it's just novel questions. It's literally like the hardest things that AI can possibly do. It's like a specific pattern that it has to interpret what the next part is supposed to be. So 0.1 preview, best model that has come out, and it's scoring at like the 13%. They fine tune it over the 4 months. And the first day of OpenAI of 12 days of OpenAI, they launched the fine-tuned version, which is the 0.1 low, medium, and high. And you can interact with those with the actual API calls. But you see it's got a 25%, a 31%, and a 32% of like scores.
Interesting.
12 days later, they announced that they've already finished making their model. So there used to be this like 6 months, 8 months long like creation of a model. They created 0.3 in 3 months. So they announced this as part of like their thing. And so the most advanced model that we were interacting with this last October, like 0.1 mini and 0.1 preview were top of the charts for every chat, like an AI model. was scoring a 13.3. Then in December, we got 01, which is scoring at 30%. And then 12 days later, we get a model that can score an 88%. And like put that into context of a 2-year time frame where you go from it can make me like sound a specific way, it can make me write smarter or more concise, to it can actually like think about how to do. So when I was doing Power BI stuff, I was using ChatGPT 4. Not only can it think about those things, it can think about as fast. We now added reasoning to this, and we can do it in 3 months. So there's a podcast out there that it's called All-In Podcast, and they had a phenomenal segment on this last episode that they were talking about predictions for the. This is another piece of the O3 from a coding standpoint, like coders, and this ties into Cursor AI. Coders, best world-class coders are typically around the 70%, 80% mark on these software engineering benchmark tests and competition code. Like the best in class are scoring. O3 is higher than the average coder at Google and Apple, right? Wow. The average coder, O3 is going to be better than. And so during the All-In podcast this last week, they had a guess of like what their predictions were for 2025. And I thought this person had the best answer that you could do. So I went and cut his specific scene. Again, this is for the All-In podcast, so I definitely recommend people listen to it.
I don't know if you could flash it up, but I think AI is going to make more progress per quarter in 2025 than it did per year in 23 and 24. And the reason is just with with 01 and 03, this is ArcAGI. It's designed, we keep changing the goalposts for the Turing test and AGI. And I'm sure we're going to change them again as we're going to blow through this. And I just think what has happened is we were scaling around one axis, which was pre-training. And then we started scaling around inference time compute. And it's very clear that we have now added a third axis of scaling performance, and that is reasoning. And what this is these models, the internet is composed of answers, people giving answers. And what the models really benefit from is kind of the internal monologue of somebody getting to that answer. And this is, in AI terms, they call it a reasoning trace. And it's one reason, 18 months ago, everybody was like, oh, wow, the more code you train a model on, the better it does, and all sorts of things that have seemingly nothing to do with code. But all code, you see kind of the reasoning, the internal monologue, the thought process, the step-by-step. And so what's happening is you're using models to generate synthetic data that contains these reasoning traces. So you ask a model, solve this problem. It has to be a problem that is functionally verifiable, that has an answer, or we know the answer. And we say, show your work. And we have it do that many, many different ways and times. And then you pick the best ones and you kind of feed those back into the model. You apply some reinforcement learning to it. And so now you're scaling along 3 axes that are multiplicative with each other. And a guy on the Google team tweeted maybe 5 days ago, it's going to be a straight shot to ASI, artificial superintelligence. And I think that might be right. Ilya gave a talk at NeurIPS, Ilya Sutskever, one of kind of the original pioneers of this field. And he said something that I thought was scary. And he said, these models that reason are inherently unpredictable. So the best reasoning models in the world today are the ones that play games, the kind of AlphaGo, AlphaZero style models. And they are constantly making unpredictable moves that no human grandmaster ever could have come up with. And now these models are going to be making similarly unpredictable leaps in all sorts of domains, which, hopefully will be awesome, but, might not be.
Yeah. Well, they're going to go around corners that people might not have considered that are non-intuitive. And
so I think the biggest piece there, and I appreciate you letting me play that entire thing.
I enjoyed watching it.
So when you think about pre-training, so this is getting all the information from all the internet and making a computer just think about that for months, right? That's pre-training. The best information that you can feed into that, the more refined information, the more the structure of that information, the better the model is going to be. So that has been all of the advancements that we have gotten from kind of like fine tuning these models and the information that we're making the computers study. The next things that they did that made these AI models better was they said, when it's called inference time, when I ask you a question, don't just give me your first answer. Think about your answer. Consider all the things that you know about that subject and think about it. Bring it to the surface, outline how you think you might answer, and then answer that outline. So one of my favorite prompting tips that I can give to anybody is, if you're doing something that's complex, always ask it to write its outline before you ask it to do the work. So always ask it to either give you the best prompt that would make this execute the best, and then start a new chat and put in that prompt that is like so well written that has that chain of thought rationale to it, or make it just write an outline for the response that it's going to give to you, and then all you have to do is say execute that outline, just write that outline. So that's inference time compute, right? You're making it think about things before you do it. And then this reasoning piece that they put in. So after we started making them think about what they did, we started feeding it like frameworks. So we would start saying, this is a typical framework whenever somebody's dealing with math problems that a typical person would go through. Or when somebody's dealing with a coding problem, this is the typical framework that coder would use. And by giving it frameworks, that's why I'm saying like interacting with AI is like inherently human, because it's you're training it to do all the things that we train the best people to do whenever they're thinking about problems, is you think about frameworks on how to think through very complex abstract issues. And so that was the reasoning piece. And now what they're doing is now that they're going and saying, all that information that we're doing in pre-training, we want you to think about it. And then we want you to write a like reasoning piece of this. And they're kind of compounding and they're playing off of one another. So the best reasoning models will give the best pre-trained information. The best pre-trained models will give the best inference time to compute outputs. The best inference time to compute models will give the best reasoning. And it's like this like 3-cycle piece that is going to just like continuously get better and better. And it only takes 3 months to produce a new model.
That's wild.
And it's going to be getting like evolving faster and faster and faster. So they talked about it. One of the Google technical people tweeted out that ASI was going to be right around the corner. We used to talk about AGI as like the so there's like a thing called a Turing test. When I say AGI, does that make sense to you?
No, I was about to ask you, what is that?
So AGI is considered is called artificial general intelligence.
Okay.
So I can ask any questions, and it can go and do that questions without any like real feedback from me or like inputs from me or everything. So when I talked about that like jagged frontier of knowledge, there's not like this like weird jag in that it doesn't like it puts the 7th toe on a person's foot, right? Like it's not giving the hallucination on like a frequent basis. And so there's multiple tests that they've come out with to like test whether something is AGI, but they keep just moving this like definition, because there really is no definition of what artificial general intelligence is. Artificial super intelligence is artificial general intelligence that's smarter than the smartest people that do those things on a regular basis in all the things.
Jeez.
And so you have like the smartest people in their industries, like, and that's kind of OpenAI is like all the people that like started OpenAI, they've all left to go start competitors, and it's all like the current thing is like, oh, they figured something out, and like they're just going to go capitalize on what they figured out. And a lot of people believe that ASI, like, and actually how to get there is what they figured out. And the drama of Sam Altman was that he wants to have an iterative approach because they have products that you could sell. This is the theory that's out there, that if you have an iterative approach, you can sell products, where a lot of like the researchers just wanted to go straight to ASI, which is the best possible thing that you could produce, instead of having this iteration process.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So O3 is supposed to come out at the end of January. We're already at January 7th, and is 70% better than what we had a month ago.
Jeez. I have a if this then what.
Yeah.
Like, you remember, so we're millennials. Like, but I remember a time when we didn't have laptops. Like, cell phones were big, like, you know, and if I just look at how far phones have advanced since I was in middle school to now, and they weren't coming out, like, think about it. Apple comes out with a new iPhone once a year. We're talking about a month, and it's like exceeds far beyond. So if it's developing at this rate, then what? Like, what does that look like?
You have so many compounding things all happening at the same time. So Moore's law is still a thing, which is like basically the compute will double every 7 years, I think is like what Moore's law is. And it's almost, there's been whole companies that have been founded and has been successful by just appropriately timing out Moore's law, where they will go design technology that is for compute power that doesn't exist anymore, right? So whenever you're designing a phone, you kind of need to start thinking about that a few years before the hardware is there to be able to build that phone. And so you're guessing at this Moore's law that is like this compounding effect, right? So you have Moore's law, which is, it's when we say double every 7 years, we're talking like that's a compounding thing that is just going to get bigger and bigger jumps. It's like 2045, where it's like a microchip can hold it's like 2027 is all the internet, all the information that's on the internet can be held within a microchip. It's like 2045 is all of the internet and all the, like, I can't remember what the metric is, but it's a crazy metric that you're like, that's not possible, or it shouldn't be, but it's the most like consistent, like, go do some research on Moore's law. It's fascinating.
I'm going to.
But then you have all these like other compounding things that is happening on testing and like open sourcing. And now you have like this whole community of people that are trying to break things and like innovate off of free things. So these companies are offering open source like items to just go play with. It's that's why it's going so fast. I was listening to a podcast the other day that asked one of the kind of tech leaders that was around during the internet phase. Somebody had asked him, as it relates to AI, where are we in relation to where the internet was? Like, what year are we? Are we 2001, where you've got the .com bubble, or are we like 1995, where everybody just figured out how to like network their computers together? And he said that we were in 1997. If you just like think about everything that like the internet spun off of 1997. So a perfect segue to our next section. If you have an idea right now that you think that AI can help you build something, like, start documenting it, because you're about to have access to a code or a coder that is better than or twice as good as the average Google employee. right? Like you're about to have that in your back pocket. And not only is he a better coder, he's also a better systems administrator. Not only is he a better systems administrator, he's also a better marketer. Like $200 a month is what you're about to have on. So I've got up here a 2-minute like theater trailer of the video that I sent to you on. So I'll go ahead and
Riley's Lit YouTube thumbnail generator. And we can now type in the name of any famous YouTuber. Let's just go Chris Williamson. And we can find thumbnails. And let's go ahead. Okay, this looks like a good one. Let's edit this with AI. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to come up here. We're going to select this part of the image right here. I have a feeling we're going to run into problems with this finger, but don't worry, we can edit it. And I'm just going to type in man, and I'm going to press in-paint region, which is trained on my face. So check this out. It is going to in-paint with my face. Look at that. That's what I'm talking about, baby.
So
stop. What?
Okay. So that guy's name is Riley Brown. Like if you want to stay on top
Riley
of
Brown?
AI, Riley Brown. So his Twitter handle, Twitter, I think is where he's the most active, is Riley Brown _AI. And in his video that is 28 minutes long, from nothing to what you just saw, it was 28 minutes of applications building. Cydney, talk to me about what you saw from a process standpoint.
It looks like he already had set up in the system where it's familiar with his face and his features. And then he just searched a thumbnail for a video that he was going to create or post. Or didn't he search somebody?
So
and then basically he found a photo that he wanted to use. He was able to select the area that he wanted it then to be able to take what it knows about his facial features and basically put his face onto a photo, which was wild.
Yeah. So this is something that, rewind a year ago, the ability to train a model on your face. So my wife was a realtor, and a year and a half ago she paid, it was like $120 or it was some crazy number that she gave multiple like pictures of herself, and the real estate company gave her like 50 AI generated images that were just like recreations of herself in like different outfits. Like it was a cool experience, but it was like all like there was like a random thumb on the cheek, or there would just be like these weird things about certain, like they all kind of looked really good, but they all were like there was something wrong with it.
There's
so you'd
something
have to, like,
off, right?
Yeah, this was a year ago.
Everyone jokes with me about my LinkedIn photo, but I don't have time to go
AI
take a
generated?
photo. Yeah, but like one of
awesome.
them I've used in the past. I didn't have, well, only girls will notice this. I didn't have eyelashes on one of my eyes.
There's
so I get it. Yeah,
there's
or
something
the eye
off on it.
pupils off and stuff.
Yeah. So basically, what the company was doing, do you remember how much you paid for it?
This was an app, and I paid $15 for the trial period. It generated 100 different photos for me.
Okay, that's not that bad. That's not
at all. Yeah.
So this is an application that probably had like a 10-person team, like a 15-person team, like that was building off like best in class like image generation, like, and they were still coming up with problems for a paid solution that like you had to like still kind of like have human like interaction with. What Riley did, and he's big on one of those like you can just do stuff now, which like I love creators that are out there that are just showing people how to do stuff.
Yeah.
And in a 25-minute video, he goes from no code, nothing. He's not a coder. So he just uses Cursor AI to build this application that basically he can type in a search prompt that will go pull like random YouTube videos that are in that same field. And it's kind of like that whole theory of still like an artist, where you go and find somebody else's stuff and you just change it enough that it's now officially yours, but you still kept like the theme, like it's like the Lamborghini in the back and your eyes are going like crazy or something. You know, the typical YouTube thumbnail. Nobody's creating these. It's all AI generated anyway. But he went from not having any code whatsoever, and in 25 minutes just talking through problems and saying, don't do this, have this, be able to highlight a specific area, allow the user to type in a YouTube search prompt and you go search. Like he just like piled on like step by step by step by step how he built this application. And he's just talking to Cursor AI, which is using one of these foundation models. I don't know which foundation model. I think Cursor AI actually allows you to choose which foundation model, but he's just using a foundation model who is going through all of his code and making adjustments on his behalf based upon his prompting that he's telling it to do. And so when I think about if this then what, like that is on current level coding models. You're about to get a coding model that is X times better at not only reasoning but coding, and has like it's faster. Like it's got all this, it's better, faster, smarter, right? And so I would say if you've got an idea for an application or something that your business needs, say there's a work process. So when I first got started, my job was really desperate for a real-time equipment management system that allowed the people to know where that equipment was. And we didn't have it within our tech stack. It was too expensive to go and get it from the third party. So I built what was called a low code platform on Google like spreadsheets, and like I had a UX that interfaced with it. And so I had to think through the logic of like how things moved from different like back end systems from one place, and I'd write that logic into it. And I had to develop it over probably like a year and a half to get it like really dialed in. And it was like just a ton of headaches, and like me having to go to like forums, like community boards, and like ask other people how to solve specific problems. And now some YouTuber that doesn't know how to code or has never created an app in his life can create an app that is more advanced than the thing that you were paying 10 people to develop a year ago. And he's doing it in 25 minutes with just like he's talking into his mic. He's not even like, he doesn't even have pre-typed like prompts that he's putting into it. He's doing it all live in front of you.
How does that make you feel?
Excited.
Yeah.
Like legit. I don't want to say that building an application right now is just like as simple as like paragraph information in, because my understanding is that there's not yet a builder out there that you can design the back end, not allow for changes to happen in certain areas. Like there's still some quirks that are being worked out. But 6 months from now, a year from now, that how fast this stuff is moving, like I could go to ChatGPT and I could say, give me 10 ideas for an application I can build. And then I pick idea number 8 and I say, write the back end infrastructure for idea number 8. I want the UX experience to be gamified. I want it to be able to interact with AI in XYZ manner, and write out a 20-page like UX plan for me, and I'll review it, and I'll read your UX plan, and on page 10 I'll have like an edit that's like, that's not what I was talking about. Page 20, and then you just like, what else do you need AI for you to build this application? And it tells you the 10 other things that it needs. You answer questions along the way, and then you say build, and it's like a weekend of processing time and some money, and you've got an application. And that's just so exciting to me.
No, I think it's tremendously excited. I can't help but think about the individual that's like, well, what's going to happen to me, And so, how would you sit down and talk to that individual in this specific scenario that you just shared?
I think right now is the best time in anybody's life for somebody that has a positive attitude about stuff. Like if you're negative and you say, I went to college for 4 years and I got a computer science degree and I figured out how to do this the hard way, and now people can just like type in a prompt and they can figure out how to write a code. I think that you're not giving yourself enough credit for what you actually learned. And I think that just because you know how to do something technically doesn't mean that you didn't also learn best practices in a lot of different areas. And so like, I think that computer science degrees like teaches you so much more than just coding. Like it teaches you like a way of thinking, which I think is a very useful skill for anybody that's trying to build these applications. So the ability to outline processes in a way that like actually makes sense to an end user is actually a very difficult skill to have. And I don't think that innate human interaction, right, is something that is currently there. Like even with Cursor AI, he had to like talk through, I want this to happen. I want this to happen. I want this to happen. Like put this box here, put that box there. I think there's still a lot of space for you, but you've got to stay positive, and you've got to like just take this as an opportunity to just like 10x your ability.
Yeah. I mean, this is like what we said in the last podcast. This is the future. I mean, it just is. This is where everything's going, whether you like it or not. And, glass half empty versus glass half full. Yeah, it could be scary, but what if it's going to be great and you could be a part of that, And then they talking about Theodore Roosevelt, get in the arena, bro.
Get in the arena.
Yeah.
You can't be the guy on the sideline that is tossing the insults at the people that it's in there doing the work. So
exactly.
If
also,
you
go ahead.
I was like, if you're gonna sit on the sidelines and complain about it, like it's gonna pass you up, and that's gonna be your life story, and it's happening. It's coming. Pandora's box has already been opened. So
talk to people are our age. I don't even know how to tell people like I graduated high school in 2011. I'm that millennial. Okay. Talk to people our parents' age and ask them if they feel like they jumped on the internet tech curve and what their regrets are. And then being able to look back now, what were the gifts and the gaps of that in their way of life? I mean, some people at our parents' age that are just afraid to even Google search anything,
Yeah. I think every generation is in for a challenge of their own. I think from boomers that are still working, that they basically created half the industries that's about to be just like ran a completely different way than they could have ever imagined 50 years ago. And suddenly at their age, they're asked to learn something, a different way of doing it. Right. Then you've got the Gen Xers, and there's a wonderful book called Clash of the Generations that like goes into like what each generation had as a common experience to their generation. And I don't remember how big of part of this book this piece was, but the author called the Gen X the intern generation, because the boomer generation was so massive above them. They had such a hard time climbing the ladder because they had so many people. It was already saturated up top. And so this entire generation kind of became like that, like they had to go the long way. So if you've got a manager that's in the Gen X, like I hate saying this right now because all my Gen X coworkers are going to come talk crap to me right now. But if you got a manager as a Gen X, like you have to understand, like they had so many people in front of them from a management standpoint. And so when they give you the talk about like putting in your dues, like they're coming from the point where like it was impossible to climb the ladder. So Gen Xers have a ton of the do it experience, but their leadership experience is challenged, right? Because they were never in those seats until the last like 5 to 10 years. And I'm talking generalities, people. So if you're a Gen Xer, this doesn't fit to you.
Yeah.
Let's breathe.
Put the swords down.
Yeah. So they're challenged with like, they've been doing it their whole life. For the first time, they're getting into these like leadership roles. And then like everything that they've just spent all their time working towards just got flipped upside down.
Yeah.
like they put in the time, they put in the effort, and now I can pass them up as a millennial because I know how to use tech in a way that is like inherent to who I am as a person. Like I grew up with it. So millennials, I would say, are actually like, and I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like we are the best like phase, because we got the part where like you still had to put in some sweat. Like you still had to figure out the hard way of going about doing things. Like you still had to report to the person that wanted it in a specific type of way. And even though you could do it in 10 seconds some other kind of way, you still had to do 10 minutes doing it the other kind of way. So you've got some experience under your belt, but you've also been able to learn the internet, learn computers, learn Excel, learn all these different ways to like automate stuff. The challenge that millennials are going to have is like, we're freaking exhausted. Like if you think about the life of a millennial right now, the amount of change that has happened, like that is the defining thing of our generations. Like we've just had all this stuff, and I'm talking everything from technology to politics to like when we were coming out of college, world events. Like, I mean, when I was in elementary school, that's when the war on terror started. Like when I'm in high school, like half of my, like some of my like classmates, their parents lost their house, like because you had the housing crisis right when we're going like leaving high school. Like you have a recovering economy in 2010, and you got to start, and you're like, okay, I'll kind of like drag it out, and then there's like a big like sub that happens, like a downturn in 2015-16, and then like
right when we're graduating again, like, college,
COVID. Like I don't want to complain,
COVID, Harvey.
we've had a ton of stuff happen to us as millennials, and so it's sometimes people just need to check out. Like sometimes people just need to be able to say, this is all the change that I can have. And I'm telling all the millennials that will listen to me, like, this is the thing you can't check out on. Like, I know you wanted to check out during the COVID era. Like, I know, like there's you learned the wrong lesson during COVID, because the right thing to do during COVID was to check out. But like AI is the thing that you need to like re-engage in the world.
Resting for this, you know,
you were resting for this.
Like that's divine intervention right there. You got to rest for a couple of years, and that's why you and I want to start the conversation around AI. And like, we're not going to be the smartest people in AI, but we're for sure going to challenge ourselves to be able to carry on a conversation about it and keep a pulse on it, you know?
Absolutely. And then you've got the upcoming generations. Like, I kind of feel sad. Like right now, you like the people that were in high school between 2012 to like 2018, that was like the social media years where like nobody understood what we were handing to our kids. But like that does something to people. And so like, I don't want to generalize, but it's a little antisocial what it does. And it makes you not want to interact with people, and like you need to do that in the real world. And now we're like stealing a lot of like their sweat equity jobs. like the people that are now graduating now, those are the ones that kind of have parents that kind of understood what they should not do with social media. And they're like kind of getting out into the world, but we're about to like rob them of their ability to do chain of thought reasoning, rob them of the ability to build their own frameworks of how they like to think, because they're about to be something that is at a PhD level thinking for them. And so like every generation is going to have something that they've got to figure out. And so nobody's disadvantaged because everybody's disadvantaged. And that like, and everybody's advantaged. It's like this double-edged sword that like, if you just become the person that just says, this is going to be a good thing for me, then it's going to become a good thing for you.
Yeah. It's true. And then you'll start seeing all the opportunities in it. Once you've accepted this is the future and I'm going to jump on board too, then it's kind of like whenever you think about a car that you like and you all of a sudden start seeing it more often, what you focus on is what you're going to see more of. So let's start seeing opportunities. And I hope this podcast is a helpful way, I hope this podcast helps people see the positive opportunities and all of that. Also, side note, before we move off this topic, back to the video of putting the face on there. Do you remember our version of this when we were kids? Face in a hole?
Face in a hole? Oh, were you just like,
you don't remember face in a hole? Yeah. It was,
you're like, now you're like a farmer.
Yes. Or you're hugged up on Trey Songz back in the day.
I don't know what that even means.
Trey Songz is a R&B singer.
It was the hugged up part that I didn't.
Oh yeah, where I was just around his arm, but it was.
Oh. Yeah.
So
okay.
I like how you're like farmer. I'm like, no, like I'm with Trey Songz in my photo.
Well, when I was in high school, I took a advanced tech apps class. That one of the apps that you were able to use was Photoshop. And the amount of like layering and stuff that I had to do to get like my face onto like Hulk's body or something, like turning it the green hue and like making sure I didn't cut off like a hair piece that like made me look dumb. Like it like we have the sweat equity. Like we've done it. We know what is actually happening from a layering standpoint. Like
on PowerPoint, creating my own photos, like overlapping, removing background, putting things together, like it's nuts.
Yeah, now it's give me a like nice slideshow with this information. It's like, here's 10 slides that are like perfectly formatted and all the stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I hate anybody that's in college right now because I don't know what you're doing. Because if
how hard it was to not utilize AI in my MBA program, like because you're also in a point where laws aren't created. Like what you would have some professors that were like, absolutely not. Some professors telling you to do that to elevate your thinking better. Shout out to Professor Fernandez. But like, yeah, I wanted to use it, but I was so scared of getting caught. Like, not that I was wanting to use it to cheat and get out of the work. I wanted to see how it really could elevate my learning processes. But I was so worried that if there was even a hint of AI being utilized as plagiarism. So I don't know, but
I would say prove it.
Yeah, right. Prove it.
You don't think I wrote that? Prove it. Like what?
Where were you when I was in school?
Prove it.
Love it.
So I have kind of a running thing with my wife is like, at some point I really want to go back to school. I don't know what for. I love learning. Yeah. Like I and the fact that like somebody has to like prepare the most like concentrated form of information for me, and I get to ask that expert at that concentrated form of information. Like I love college. And if I went back to learning something like as a full-time, like I'm now a college student again, I think I would be so good at all the stuff because I had AI just like teach me stuff.
Yeah.
But if you had given that to me as an 18-year-old, when I was originally going through college, like college classes was already like priority number like 8 for me.
Being an RA was the top one, right?
It was like girls was number 1, working out number 2, job number 1, job number 2, job number 3, and then going out on the weekends, like going to sports events, and then it was my homework.
All the way down there.
all the way down there. There's probably something I'm forgetting. It's like cafeteria time is more important.
The calf.
Yeah, the calf. Never missed a class. I will say that unless I was like deadly sick, I never missed a class, and I made A's.
That's impressive.
When it was like priority number 8. I love learning. I don't want to brag, but you're
a pretty smart kid.
I'm waiting for the world to realize that I'm not smart and I have no idea what I'm doing. So just making this up as we go. All right, Cydney, we were rambling at this point. Why don't we go ahead and sign us off? You have any other final words for the episode?
Yeah, my last if this then what.
Okay.
I'm always going to bring it back to humanity, right? People. Okay. If we put just as much effort into communicating with other humans as we do prompting AI appropriately, what would happen to our relationships?
Dang.
Like most people don't think out what they're going to say to people, or they don't think out. I mean, they don't think about how would this person, if I were this person I'm talking to right now, how would I be receiving the feedback I'm giving? Talk about manager feedback. If I was in this person's shoes, what would they need to know? What information are they missing? What prompting do I need to do more of? Right? And a lot of times you just get the first answer. Think about whenever you ask one question to ChatGPT, expecting a specific response in some realm, and it just gives you something completely off the wall. How many of us just let our reality stop at that prompt versus digging and going, oh, okay, so you responded in this way. You might not have taken me the right way. This is what I meant by this. If we could just hang in there with humanity. So I'm interested to see what interacting with AI can do for us humans and interacting with each other.
That is so meta, Cydney. That's so truthful though. That like if you're managing people and you're the manager out there that like you assign a project and you just assume every person is going to come to the same conclusion that you came to when you assigned that project. And like you're the guy that's going to like lose yourself because the person interpreted you incorrectly. Like we now have software now that is learning at the PhD level, and if you can't prompt it right, it's going to give you the wrong answer, and you're going to be the guy that gets mad. Yep. Because it could be the wrong answer. And really you need to look in the mirror and you need to think about how you're asking the question and how you are assigning the task. And that's really the sign of a good manager, is the ability to like question themselves and like, am I asking the right questions? Am I asking the right task? And if I were to provide any type of framework to do this, how would I provide that framework? And if you can just start thinking about your relationships, that sounds so like simple, but it's really true. Like if you can start thinking about this, I think it would make your relationships a lot better.
And so to leave people with a good example on the example about the manager, what we are getting really good at with AI is defining what done looks like when answering our question. And so shout out to Brian Cook. Brian Cook is a leader, especially in the Texas region, for commercial general contracting. We are consulting business partners on occasion. And one of the things that we recently taught one of our clients, first time manager training series, is defining what done looks like. And so as you you just start thinking about the prompts and everything that you're doing with AI is literally you defining to it what done looks like and adjusting any